Alrighty, so it's been a while since we have done one of this, but today we are going to do a mega review where we are going to look back at the busy 11 game action that happened on Saturday night. And I gotta say, while we definitely saw some interesting rivalry week game this weekend, there was definitely some derbies that live up to its hype. Yeah, unfortunately, some definitely did not. And for some of the non-rivalry games, yeah, goals were definitely hard to come by in some of these games. We had four games that ended in a no-no draw, and some of them, yeah, let's just say it was kind of forgettable. But that being said, let us begin by talking about the first game, and one game that was not forgettable is the Hell is Real derby between Columbus and FC Cincinnati, and this is one of those derbies that kind of belong in the category where it kind of live up to its hype. Though, if you're a Columbus fan, you would feel like you should have absolutely won this game because, yeah, they were the better team in this one against Cincinnati. Cincinnati was kind of hanging on for dear life late in this one, and in the resort or in the end, they're probably going to be the more happier side, walking out with a 1-1 draw out of Columbus. Now, in the first half, it also kind of helps the fact that they score on their first shot of the game as Kevin Denke, in making his Hell's Real Derby debut, and definitely made a big impact as he scored here from Evander to make it 1-0 in favor of Cincinnati. It was the first shot of the game, and it's just an absolute gift by Patrick Schulte. I'll tell you what, when it comes to goalkeepers that have been top tier in the league, these last couple of weeks, we have seen some mistakes that are made by these top tier goalkeeper. And Schulte here just kind of palms this one into a dangerous area and kind of paid the price as a result of that. But just like that, Cincinnati take a 1-0 lead, and they would gladly take a mistake to get a green start in this Hell is Real derby. And then he looked for another, but was deflected wide in the 7th minute. There was no doubt Cincinnati was the better team in this Hell is Real derby, and we're looking to try to get more. The first shot for Columbus did see Sean Bowles puts it high before Aliu would puts it wide from close in the 11th minute, as there was no doubt Columbus have woke up. I think that after them kind of getting a little red, no, after giving up on the first shot of the game that ends up to be a goal, they started to look to try to tie it up. Celentano would then deny Arfston on the front post before Schulte would tip Buka shot over as Cincinnati, they also have looked very dangerous when it comes to the break against a crew team that they're going to give you some space. With the way that Wilfred Nancy's side likes to play the high line and like to have possession, you know that there's going to be space if you're able to break the original line of confrontation, which I thought Cincinnati did very well in the first half to be able to do so. Though that being said, in the 25th minute, Saotano would deny Farsi as he pushed that one onto the post. It was a shout for a penalty for Columbus that was not given before Santos would hit it right to Schulte off of a lightning counter attack in the 33rd minute. In the 37th minute, Orejano would put it wide from close, and then Gastak had a shot that was deflected, but it wouldn't have counted either way because the flag went up. But the pace of this game was incredible. Like it was back and forth at time in this one. There was a lot of chances that was created, but the question is, who can get that next goal? The answer is no one as we head to halftime with Cincinnati leading 1-0. In the second half, Gastek would put it over after just chaos in the Cincinnati box. Cincinnati was just desperately trying to clear that one. Unfortunately, for them that Gastek didn't put that one on target. Though Columbus fans feel like there was a foul there in the box there. I'm not quite sure what exactly happened in that chaos that Columbus fan was so riled up about, but they won VAR and they feel like they should have got themselves a penalty in that sequence. Instead, 5 minutes later, they do get themselves a penalty as Haglin handball this one here in the 54th minute, so that allows Diego Rossi steps up to the penalty spot and try to tie the game up. And he does exactly that. So the game was all tied up at one apiece. Anunga did look to answer, but he hits this one way wide from long range, and then Hopkinson would had a shot that was deflected and goes wide, and then Salentano would deny Arfston from close not long after. This is when Columbus really started to amp up the pressure to level 11. Russell Rowe would then miss a free header from close range. Yeah, that is one that Russell Rowe would want to have back with how good he's been goal scoring this season. That is one you would expect him to bury in the back of the net, but you just kind of had a sense the pressure was mounting for Columbus trying to press for the lead. And then in the 73rd minute, it looked like Russell Rowe did do so if it wasn't for Roman Celentano absolutely robbing him from a point blank effort from a free header. I mean, what a save that was from Saltano. Just kind of full stretch there to deny Russell Rowe and the crew a chance to take the 2-1 lead. Moreira would then heads it over from close in the 75th minute. Again, it's just unrelentless pressure right now for the crew. Cincinnati was on the ropes. They also cannot defend set piece whatsoever. Every set piece that the crew were putting in, it had a chance for the crew to create a golden chances. Gasag would then hits it right to Salatano. We then had some coming together between both of these teams because, of course, you know there's going to be some coming together in a rivalry game like this. You know when the intensity of the game gets high, the emotion is going to get there, and what a way to do so when you have the guy that I'm not surprised Miazga is in the mix of this. If there's a guy that I think there was going to be maybe some coming together, Miazga is definitely going to be on the center of that attention, considering he has to always play a villain role in this league. And yeah, him and Rossi kind of had some choice words with each other during that moment. The referee was then told he's sub in an explicit way as well. So now even the fans were starting to kind of get into the action and become a little restless in terms of some of the things that's going on. But in the 89th minute, Columbus almost got the lead, and it wasn't because of them scoring. It was actually teenage debut almost scoring an own goal there. He's very fortunate that Salatano was in the right place to get that one. But yeah, in the end, Cincinnati, they survive after just an unrelentless pressure of the crew. They just aren't able to get that second goal. It ends in a 1-1 draw. The shots in this one, 17 shots for the 9 that Cincinnati has, 3 shots on goal for the 6 that Columbus had, 4 shots off target for the 2 that Cincinnati has, 3 shots that was blocked for the 6 that Columbus had, and possession wise, 68% possession compared to 32% possession that Cincinnati has in this game. And again, there's no doubt that Pat Nolan's side will be the more happier side coming out of this game. Consider all the pressure that they were up against late in the second half. I think they'll gladly take a point. But for Wilfred Nancy's side, I mean, this is gonna be frustrating. They had this game won, and this is kind of almost similar to what we saw in the game against Inter Miami, where they were the better team in the game and they create the chances, but not able to bury those chances for open play is something that is going to drive Wilfred Nancy crazy. It's going to drive these Brew players that missed those chances crazy, because if they would have put away the chances, this would have been a big statement win in this Hell is Real derby. And also, I can't wait to see the next time when both of these teams play against each other, because again, this is one of the couple of derbies that actually live up to its hype, and it's also one of those one where the scoreline doesn't indicate how entertaining this Hell is Real derby was. Now, that being said, moving on into the next game, and now start talking about some non-rivalry game. Though, again, you would say that New England and San Jose is kind of becoming a bit of a rivalry because it's basically Rev East versus Rev West. Now, what was kind of interesting in this one is that Bruce Arena decided to set his guys in this one, and I was maybe a little surprised by that, considering that I know deep down Bruce Arena really wants to win this. He definitely wants to get one better against his former employee. But at the same time, I kind of understand why he decided to rest some of his guys and kind of did something similar to what Eric Ramsey did with Minnesota against Houston, where it's a cross country trip on a short week. You're not going to play your starters, especially with the way that they just play their starters in the last two games as well. I mean, they had doing this 3 games in 7 stretch. They had to play against Colorado in altitude, and then play in that game where they host Messi and friends, where they definitely put all their starting in again. So there was no way in the world that they were going to put the starters again in this one. It would just completely tire out the team. But that being said, despite that, they actually still were the better team in this game against New England. But the problem is, as it is kind of the case for the Quakes this season, the finishing is just not there for them. And I would also say they might have got lucky in terms of a very controversial call that Revs fans are going to be very upset that went against them in the second half in this one. Now, in the first half, the first shot of the game, C. Campana puts it wide from close. Not much really happened in the beginning of this game, as there was only one shot through 13 minutes into this one. The first shot for the Quakes, C. Judd miss wide from long range there. Yeah, Preston Judd and Amal Pellegrino gets the start. I knew the Quakes were not going to score a goal because those are the two guys that are probably the most snake bitten in front of goal this season. Like, it's almost given that the Quakes are probably not going to score a lot of goals when Preston Judd and Pellegrino is leading the line for this team. Campana then missed wide from long range in the 18th minute before Judd would heads it wide from close range, as the chances were starting to come for both of these teams. But really, neither of these goalkeeper has really been trouble up to this point. Pellegrino would then heads it wide from close, and then he missed an absolute sitter from close in the 30th minute. That kind of miss just kind of sums up Pellegrino's season. And once again, I even asked myself, I have no idea why he's still getting minutes. I mean, I understand that he this is a game where maybe maybe the Quakes are gonna play the reserve. But what happened to Kikanovic? Like, why is Kikanovic not giving a chance in this game compared to Pellegrino? Because it is very clear that Pellegrino has completely tested my patient. I mean, this season it's just been a disastrous season for him, and I also wouldn't be surprised if they would eventually move on from him. And he's another latest name of a long list names that just kind of failed to live up to expectation when he came to the Quakes a couple of seasons ago. Mark Anthony K then puts it over from close in the 40th minute as the Quakes were pushing for the opener and probably should have got this one if the starters were in. If Chicho Arango and Joseph Martinez was in this game, this would have been easily 1-0 in favor of the Quakes. But instead, it heads to halftime with a nil result. In the second half, Diaz would then hits one right to Edward Jr. By the way, when I saw Edward Jr. On the lineup, I did not see the Quakes getting a clean sheet in this one because he's been to say that he's been bad this season is an understatement. So it was kind of a big surprise the fact that not only he got a clean sheet in this one, but he actually made some save, which is something that has not happened to him coming into to this game as a Quakes goalkeeper. Though I guess maybe like many Quakes player that used to play for New England, I think they probably were very up for it in this game and want to impress their former boss in this one. But there was no doubt the Quakes were started to get some chances, and again they're started to bring on the cavalry. I think this is when Bruce Arena realized that maybe they can get all 3 points in this one, as LaRue, Jones, and Buda was summoned in this game. Lima would then heads it wide from close in the 63rd minute before Jude would puts it wide on the header because that's what he does. The Quakes would then push for the opener, but again, can they show that clinical finishing that was clearly lacking in this game? It just kind of felt like this is one of those games where the Quakes were going to put a lot of chances, but they just don't have that clinical finishing. Heel would then hits one right to Edward Jr. before the post would deny Marie from long range, as that was probably the closest we have seen the Quakes and anybody score in this one. Though, speaking of scoring, in the 69th minute, it looked like we got the opening goal of the game, as Ganago would score here and really score against the run of play because New England didn't really had a lot of chances up to this point. But the goal was disallowed for offside. And I gotta say, the Quakes got away with this one. And I can understand why Revs fans are absolutely fuming about this because when I look on the replay, yeah, I don't think Ganago was in an offside position. I think he was level with the last defender. I think this was the wrong call, but nevertheless, the Quakes they got away with one. One of the rare times when the Quakes got benefit of a blown call. It's usually the other way around that the Quakes are always getting screwed over by blown call. From my experience of being a fan of this team for a long time, but in the 70th minute, Murray would miss wide from the volley before Ivasic denied Mark Anthony K from close range. I also thought that I don't think this announcer know these Quakes player very well, and I don't blame that is the case because this announcer I haven't really heard this announcer before. I actually don't even know what his name. I know the co-commentator that is Ian Joy. He used to be the co-commentator for NYCFC, and I actually do enjoy him when he do the commentator. But I don't know the main commentator. But yeah, he kind of butchered not only some of the pronunciation for some of these players, but he kind of misidentified some of these players when the shot was taking in. I mean, it was pretty clear that there was a couple of times when he mentioned that Preston Judd make the attempt, and I keep saying that's not Preston Judd. That's somebody else. But nevertheless, it's interesting for me to kind of throw that in there. And this is not the first time I've seen this before. I've seen this happen with other games as well, where announcer mispronouncing names. I think it's gotten better, mainly because some of these announcer have been kind of regionalized, and that it seems like we're starting to get to a stage where some of these announcers are pretty much based on a region where they're kind of calling the same team games over and over again in the week, so they're more familiar with that compared to where in the beginning that was a big problem where I've seen a lot of Apple TV announcer misidentify players and mispronouncing names left, right, and center. But in the 87th minute, Uruti with Skies one from long range, and yeah, in the end, it ends in the scoreless draw in this one. Shots in this one, 14 shots for the 10 that New England has, 2 shots on goal for the 1 that the Quakes had, 9 shots off target for the 4 that New England has. Both teams had 2 shots that was blocked, and possession wise, 56% possession compared to 44% possession the Quakes has in this game. And I think it's kind of a fair result considering nobody could finish in this one, albeit I know New England fans are going to be very upset in terms of that blown call that might have cost them an extra 2 points in this one. But overall, they were under some pressure in this game as well. If the Quakes would have find their clinical finishing, and especially if they did play their starters in this one, I have no doubt that they probably would have won this game and maybe even win this game convincingly. Now, moving on in terms of the next match, it's Charlotte and Chicago. What in the world is going on with Charlotte FC? Remember a couple of weeks when this team was at the top of the Eastern Conference, and I said that this is going to be a team that has now graduated from being a dark horse team to being a legitimate team in the Eastern Conference and a contender as well. Well, ever since I made that claim, they have now lost 5 in a row, and they have tumbled down the Eastern Conference. And in this latest game, where they're playing at home, and I know that the road form has been a big problem for this team, and with them playing a very road heavy stretch, it's no surprise that they're struggling. But this has to be very alarming. The fact that they're playing at home, a place that they have only lost once heading into this game, and they just get absolutely pummeled by Chicago in this one. And also, what in the world is happening with the Charlotte defense? I mean, this defense last season was supposed to be the best in the league. This season, it's have kind of started to become Swiss cheese. Now, in the first half, Gutierrez with the first shot of the game, but he puts this one high before Gutman puts it wide from close in the 7th minute, as I thought it was a positive start for the Fire as they were looking for the opener. Kuipers would then puts it wide from close as the shots were 4-0 for the Fire 20 minutes in. Charlotte clearly did not start on time in this one, which is something you usually do not say about the Charlotte team. Usually they always come out the gate strong, especially at home. The first shot for Charlotte did see Brady denied Anjiman from close before Gutierrez hits one right to Kalina, and then Elliott would hits it right to Kalina in the 39th minute. Brady then denied Anjiman from close as both of these teams were starting to try to get the opening goal and exchanging some chances. Malanda would then hits it over from the corner, but then in the 42nd minute, Jonathan Bamba would score. He scored here from Gutierrez to give the Fire a 1-0 lead. It kind of took a fortunate deflection there, but nevertheless, you knew that goal was coming with the chances that was created, especially from the visitor. And just like that, Chicago has a 1-0 lead. They try to double that lead right on the stroke of halftime as Kuiper looked for another, but he hits it right to Kalina, and we do head to halftime with the Fire leading 1-0. In the second half, Brady would deny Bio from close before Diani heads it right to Brady, as I thought Charlotte started positive coming out of the gate. They were looking to try to get the equalizer. Though that being said, in the 59th minute, Gutierrez had a chance to make it 2-0, and he should have made it 2-0. I mean, he had an empty net to shoot here, but somehow in some way, Andrew Privet kind of came out of nowhere, able to get himself back and deflected that behind. I kind of feel like maybe Gutierrez thought he had more times than he think that he kind that decided to kind of take this one too casually, and because of that, he kind of allowed Andrew Privet to kind of recover in a way to deflect that one behind. Now, to be fair, that was incredible by Andrew Privet and an example of what you've been taught every day as a defender. Don't give up on the play. He didn't give up on the play, and that was the reward of it. But that is one that should have been 2-0 in favor of the Fire. And I even wrote certified Fire moment. Only the Chicago Fire can have those kind of moment, and I just feel like, oh boy, is this kind of one of those games for the Fire where they look very good on the road and somehow they still end up on the losing side? Well, the answer is no, because just 1 minute later, Gutierrez would have a redemption goal. So he scored here to make it 2-0 in favor of the Fire, and then not long after, it was 3-0 in favor of the Fire, as Zikanago would score from Gutman and Bamba to make it 3-0 in favor of Chicago. The route was definitely on, but what in the world is going on with this Charlotte defense? Like, they were all over the place throughout this game. So they do get one back in the 70th minute as Ajiman, for one of the rare time, gets on the score sheet, and I say that because it's been a huge disappointment for Patrick Ajiman. I mean, to think what he did during the January camp, and that gives a lot of hope for Charlotte fans that maybe that can translate into the club level. It has not translated into the club level. It's been a very frustrating season for Patrick Ajiman. Hasn't really been that number 9 that they hope he could be. But yeah, he scored here from Williamson to make it 3-1 in favor of Chicago. By the way, notice how I haven't mentioned Wilfred Zaha name so far. He had a really quiet game in this one, and it's safe to say that I think Charlotte is having a Wilfred Zaha moment, and that maybe they have probably signed a guy that he has had attitude problems before, and it's kind of already shown in these last couple of games, especially in one of the press conference where he definitely sound off about his frustration with his Charlotte team. But Pep Biel would then put it just wide from close range. The momentum kind of started to go with Charlotte as they were pushing to try to get another one back, but that momentum was all ruined in the 78th minute because a penalty was given to the Fire as Gutman was brought down by Williamson in the box. So here comes Gutierrez, a chance to make it 4-1, and he does exactly that from the spot. Biel looked to answer, but he missed wide there before Kuipers looked for number 5, but he was robbed by Kalina on a 1v1. Kuame then hits it right to Kalina in the third minute stoppage time. There was no mercy that was shown by this Fire team. I mean, they were still pressing hard to try to get that fifth goal, and although they didn't get the fifth goal in this one, they get an emphatic 4-1 win that they have against Charlotte. I mean, it's not very often you see Charlotte get beat like this at home. I think the only time I can remember that they get beaten this badly at home, if you don't include the inaugural season, is when they lost 3-0 to Minnesota last season. But yeah, look at the shots total: 25 shots compared to 12 that Charlotte has, 5 shots on goal compared to 10 that Chicago has, 6 shots off target compared to 4 that Charlotte has, 3 shots out of the block compared to 9 that Chicago has, and possession-wise, 53% possession compared to 47% possession that Chicago has in this game. It is panic time right now. You got to say for the Crown. I mean, this team right now, I feel like this is kind of an example of what I've said before. When you see a team that kind of struggle in terms of scoring goals, and you put a lot of pressure on your defense, well, what happened when that defense started to buckle? We're starting to see that defense start to buckle, and we're starting to see some huge regression by the Sharp defense, and even the goalkeeping as well. I mean, Kalina just have not looked like himself at all. Doesn't look like anywhere near the goalkeeper of the year that he was last season, and then coupled with the lack of goal scoring, and this is what you get right now with Charlotte. 5 straight losses, and what's worse is that, as I mentioned, they're in the midst of this heavy road stretch. With the way that they can't win on the road, they have to win these game at home, especially against a Fire side that has been kind of inconsistent and unpredictable this season. It feels like this was kind of the Chicago Fire team that was up for it in this one, and they definitely well they deserve to get the win. But for Charlotte, there's got to be a lot of alarm bells that is ringing, and with all the good thing that Dean Smith has done to this team, it just feels like it's been all undone in these last couple of games where the defense has completely fallen apart, and on the attacking end clearly underachieved, and the signing of Wilfred Zaha seems like has done more harm to the attack than actually done more good to the attack, and even the locker room morale as well. But that being said, moving on in the next match, and while Charlotte is struggling, they're not the only Southeastern team that is struggling right now. I mean, we already talked about Atlanta United, and already they kind of beat the dead horse about how in the world does a 50 million attack still struggle the way they are. Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know what the answer is, and this game doesn't seems like is gonna give the answer because yeah, in this one the Union was able to win in this one, and I didn't think the Union played well in this game too. I thought they let Atlanta a couple of chances in this one to come back for it, but when you're faced against Atlanta team that simply can't score goals, it's I mean even if you only score one, it's probably gonna be enough to get all 3 points. Now, the first shot of the game did see Guzan deny Diamani from close before Hariel heads it wide on the ensuing corner. Lennon would then puts it high from long range before Lukic would puts it high from long range in the 16th minute, as I thought it was a couple good chances for both of these teams. Both of them were looking to try to get the opening goal. Rick would then deny Amador from close before Fortune puts it high from long range, and then Tiare would miss a free header from close range. I mean, that just kind of sums up the season for Atlanta. Just not able to show that clinical finishing, but they were definitely pressing to try to get the opening go up to this point. Uru would then hits it right to Guzan, but we do head to halftime with the score scoreless between both of these teams. In the second half, Bedoya would put it wide on the header before Uru had an empty net to shoot here, but somehow was clear off the line. And on the sequence, they actually did see whether or not if Abram actually handballed this one, and I believe he was the one that cleared this ball off the line. And VAR says yes. So we go to the spot here for the Union, a chance to get the lead for the Union, and of course, you know who you're gonna be putting a guy from the spot here. You got to put Ty Baribo in the spot. He has been just red hot this season. The Golden boot leader, and after kind of a slow start to the season, he's definitely picked up again because he scored here from the spot to score the 11th and leading goals scoring so far this season. I mean, it's hard to believe he's already have 11 goals for 14 games. I mean, I will say that I don't think he's gonna break Carl's Vela record that we saw a couple years at 34. He's gonna be a guy that is easily gonna be a 20 plus goal scorer. And yeah, just like that, it was 1-0 for the Union. Also on that penalty kick, Guzan actually went the right way here, but that was just played perfectly for Baribo, where there was just nothing that Guzan could do. Even if he died full strength, there was no way he was gonna get to that one. Latte Laugh did look to answer, but he heads this one wide because that's how Latte Laugh has been. It's been a nice call for him along with this $50 million attack. Rick then denied Lobjanite from close. Atlanta once again pressed with the equalizer, but you just kind of sense this is one of these days again where they just cannot not finish. The confidence level of this Atlanta attack is just at an all-time low right now. Guzan then denied Sullivan in the front post before Westfield would cross it wide from close. And then in the 8th minute stoppage time, it looked like Derek Williams had a chance to get the equalizer, but Andrew Rick absolutely robbing William from close range. And what a game Rick had in this one. It's not very often that he gets times with the way that the Union decided to rest Blake in this one, but yeah, he definitely played a great game in this one, and as a result, they win 1-0 in this one. The Boo Birds were definitely raining down at the Bends at full time. It's now 8 games without a win for this Atlanta United side. Shots in this one, 14 shots for the 9 that Atlanta has, 3 shots on goal for the 6 that the Union has, 6 shots off target for the 5 that Atlanta has, 1 shot that was blocked compared to the 2 that the Union has in possession-wise, 63% possession compared to 37% possession the Union has in this one. And eventually, I think I'm gonna probably make a hot seat in index video relatively soon, as we're now past almost to the halfway point of the season. And I gotta say, Ronnie Daly is probably gonna be right up at the top in terms of being on the hot seat, because this has just been an absolute disaster for this Atlanta team. I feel like this is even worse than last season, because at least last season eventually they kind of sorted out a little bit on the attacking end. This season, it's just been nothing but misery. The attack that was supposed to be good, nowhere to be found, and on the defensive side, still very spotty at time as well. With that being said, I am now going to change boards and look at the next 4 games as part of this mega 11 game review that I'm going to be doing in terms of this rivalry week of match week number 13. All right, so next up, we got Nashville and DC United, and yeah, this apparently was a game. And that's all I'll say about this one, because, yeah, for those that watch this game, I definitely send my condolences, because this was definitely one of those games where, for the neutral that watches, they're not going to get 90 minutes back after watching this one. Now, early on, not much chances happened in the first 15 minutes. Mukhtar did put the ball into the back net, but the flag did not agree with him there, as there was an offside on the development play. No shots for the first 20 minutes into this game, because the Mukhtar goal that was disallowed doesn't count as a shot. In the 22nd minute, the first shot of the game did see Barraza deny Mukhtar from close. I thought Barraza got away with one here, because he actually hit a goal kick that went straight to Mukhtar there, and Nashville tried to capitalize, weren't able to do so. But there was no doubt that I thought Nashville started getting into this game. They were pushing to try to get the opening goal. Mukhtar would then hit it right to Barraza from the free kick, and then he hits it to Barraza again on the free kick a couple of minutes later, and that would kind of be some of the best chances that we'll see in this game, as we do head to halftime, unsurprisingly scoreless between both of these teams. In the second half, Brookman would put it wide from long range. Keep in mind, Nashville didn't really play their strongest team in this one, so maybe that kind of explains why they were a little bit lackluster going forward. Though I say that, but Mukhtar still played in this one, and they did still had Sam Surridge come on off the bench in this one late in this game. But in the 52nd minute, Barraza would deny Quasi from long range, as Nashville kind of picked up where they left off and looked for the opening goal. Bartlett would then put it to Memphis, as that was DC's first shot of the game, so it took DC that long until we finally see them getting a shot, and that would also be one of only 3 shots that DC would have for the entire game. Leao would then hit one right to Willis. That also would be the second shot that DC would have had, and the only shot on target that they had throughout the entire game. Mokhtar would then had a shot that was deflected behind before he hits it right to Barraza on the free kick in the 86th minute. Nashville was definitely pushing to try to get the win. DC was once again playing for a 0-0 draw, just like they did in the last game. Surridge would then puts it over from long range in the 9th minute, but then Murrow had a chance to steal one late in the 2nd minute of stoppage time, but he puts this one wide after just a WTF turnover from Nashville. And yeah, talk about getting away with a huge mistake there. Nashville almost got caught because of committing a WTF turnover. And really, that was kind of probably the best chance we had in this game because in the end, yeah, this was definitely a forgettable 0-0 draw. Only 8 shots compared to 3 that DC had in this one. So there was only 11 shots in this entire game. 5 shots on goal for the 1 that DC had. Both team had 2 shots on the block. 1 shot on the block for the none that DC had. And possession-wise, 55% possession compared to 45% possession that DC had in this game. And I think out of all the 0-0 draw that we saw this weekend, this was probably the most boring one and one that, yeah, the less said about this game, the better. Now, moving on in the next game is Minnesota and St. Louis. So, yeah, this was not a big surprise consider look what difference it makes when you actually put in the starters in. And again, I understand that for Eric Ramsey, he might think about resting his guy for midweek games. We usually see that happen with teams decide to rest some of the guys and maybe get some of your reserve a chance to do so. But I still don't like the fact that he rested a ton of guys and pretty much almost put a second team against Houston in a game where I think they really disrespected Houston in that one, and they were made to pay. But yeah, Aaron Ramsey did put his starter back into this game, and look what it did. They actually won this game. And what's also kind of interesting is that this is a game where they not only won against St. Louis, but they won when they had possession and playing some great brand of soccer and not have to heavily rely on the transition and on the set pieces. Though again, maybe that has something to say about St. Louis, who yeah, they are a very bad team. But in the first half, Pardo would miss wide from long range as that was the game's first shot before he puts it right to Dane Sinclair in the 6th minute. I thought St. Louis actually started well with a couple of chances. Minnesota definitely did not start on time early in this game. The first shot of the game did see Longwane puts it wide from long range, and I say first shot of the game. That was the first shot of the game for Minnesota. That is. Berkey would then deny Romero on the header. The Loons definitely woke up after a slow start and were looking to try to get the opener. Though Wallen would hit one right to Dane Sinclair in the 21st minute before Diaz had a shot that took a deflection and missed wide from close. Harvey would then hit it right to Berkey, and then he would palm Pereira's shot away as the pressure was definitely mounting for the Loons. They were really pushing hard to try to get the opening goal in this one, and that pressure finally paid off in the 33rd minute as Oluwaseyi would score from Romero and Pereira to make it 1-0 in favor of Minnesota. It's another set piece goal, but most importantly, what a cheeky backheel goal that was from Tani. You know he has a lot of confidence right now when he can try to do that there, and just like that, Minnesota got a well deserved 1-0 lead. Wallen did look to answer, but he hits it right to Dane Sinclair before Berkey denied Pereira from long range as the Loons were looking to try to get a second before halftime. But we do head to halftime with Minnesota leading 1-0. In the second half, Harvey would put it wide from long range. Minnesota kind of picked up where they left off in the first half, looking for that second goal, and they do exactly that in the 62nd minute as Joaquin Pereira. All of a sudden now he started to be able to score goals. What a difference it makes when he finally gets on the score sheet for the first time a couple of weeks against Austin. I mean, I don't expect him to be a goal scorer. He's more of a playmaker for this team, but it's definitely great to see that now that he's getting on the score sheet as he scored here from Oluwaseyi and Lud to make it 2-0 in favor of Minnesota. And really just that was just beautiful soccer from the Loons. This team have definitely started playing much better in terms of their build up compared to what we see for the majority of the season. And this is definitely good news to seeing how this team is able to do that because for a long time my frustration with the Loons and my frustration with Aaron Ramsey is that they're kind of a one-trick pony when it comes to just playing transitional style and rely heavily on the set piece. And these last 2 wins that they have, it feels like they kind of gone a little bit away from that. Now, not saying that they have completely gone away with it. They did score a set piece goal, that is, but that's kind of something that the second goal that Minnesota scored, I don't see that very often, at least for the run that they had in that 8-game unbeaten streak where they played that brand of soccer and still able to score a goal. Track then looked for a third goal, but he puts high from long range. He's another guy that definitely has confidence because he's been scoring a couple of goals so far this season. But in the 78th minute, Minnesota would make it 3-0 and put this game out of reach as Julian Gresso would score his first goal for Minnesota from Pereira and Trapp. So yeah, Gresso just come on off the bench. I mean, that's a great way to come off the bench and make an impact on your first or on your first touch. But yeah, that made it 3-0 in favor of Minnesota. Betcher did look to respond and trying to get a consolation goal for St. Louis, but he puts it wide from long range before would puts it wide from long range, and that shot kind of sums up St. Louis in terms of this game and also this season as well. Just nothing going for them on the attack this season, and it's another game where they failed to score a goal. There's been a lot of games this season where St. Louis have been shut out on the score sheet. As in the end, Minnesota gets a comfortable 3-0 win, a good bounce back win after that game against the Dynamo where they elected to punt that game away, even though they probably shouldn't have. Shots in this one, 20 shots with 11 that St. Louis had, 4 shots on goal for the 7 that Minnesota has. Both team had 4 shots off target, 6 shots on blocked for the 2 that St. Louis had, and possession-wise, 52% possession compared to 48% possession that Minnesota has in this game. Now, one interesting note, both of these teams are actually going to be playing against each other again in the Open Cup on Wednesday at Allianz Field, and I expect, this is probably not going to be the same Minnesota team that will play St. Louis. I think Eric Ramsey is going to try it again, maybe put some of his reserve in this one. And this is where if you're St. Louis, if you're Olaf Malper, who there's already rumors that it seems like he could be out of this job relatively soon, and the pressure is definitely mounting on him right now. Why not just play the starter in that game and hope that you can move on into the next round? Because really, it's getting to a point where when you see teams that are not having a great season so far, we always see that when teams are in the U.S. Open Cup, that's a way for them to salvage the season. We've seen Sporting KC did it a couple of times in the past couple of years, and it feels like we're getting to that point where St. Louis might have to do the same thing here, where a deep cup run would definitely be a good way for the fan to distract of just a very disappointing season, and also kind of relieve the pressure that Olaf Melper has had, because like I said, the pressure is mounting on him, and you can maybe even say the same thing about the sporting director Lutz as well. The pressure is mounting on him as well because of how wrong that he have got when it comes to this hiring, and also the roster that he built for this team. But that being said, moving on in the next match, we got Dallas and the Houston Dynamo, and Dallas struggle at home continues. I mean, this team, for whatever reason, they cannot win at home this year, and this is kind of weird to see because historically they have been one of the better home teams this year. But for the most part this season, one of the biggest issue that they have at home this season is that they just cannot get anything going on the attacking end, and the Dynamo kind of took advantage of this. Now, in the first half, this game was actually delayed a little bit. I think this is the first time we've seen a game that was delayed because of weather, or at least in the beginning. That is, I remember earlier in the season, I think there was a St. Louis game that was delayed because of weather, but that was in the middle of the game. This was actually in the beginning of the game. So the kickoff was set at 8:25 p.m. local time, and it feels like the camera feed was messed up when the match resumed, because it kind of died for a couple of seconds. We then get some very interesting camera angle that I have never seen live before. But nevertheless, that was really the only thing I can say about the first 13 minutes. Yeah, it was a bit of a snooze fest in this game. This is one of those derby games that kind of didn't live up to expectation. But the first shot of the game did see Linger heads it wide for the Dynamo before Reigns would heads it or puts it wide in the front post off the deflection. And despite limited chances, the Dynamo definitely looked like the better team. Dallas had barely crossed the halfway line. I mean, they were pinned deep early in this one. The Dynamo had all the possession in the world. The shots were still 2-1, 35 minutes in. Julio then tried to chip the keeper, and what a chip this was, because this actually almost caught out Jonathan Bond. I mean, he was scrambling to come back, and he is very fortunate that he was still able to just deflect it at the last second before Moore just missed high in the 39th minute, and you just kind of sense there's finally life for Dallas, who looked to try to get the lead late in the first half, but we do head to halftime with the scoreless between both of these teams. In the second half, Lingard would heads it wide from close before the toss-up puts it high on the free kick in the 54th minute. In the 58th minute, Pedrinho would then heads it over off the deflection. But then in the 64th minute, the Dynamo gets the opening goal as Jack McGlynn would score from Dorsey to make it 1-0 in favor of the Dynamo. And you just kind of had a sense in the game where at times chances are limited. Somebody's going to make a magical moment from long range. And there he is, Jack McGlynn with an absolute banger and a half to give the Dynamo a 1-0 lead in this Texas derby. Kovacic then looked for another, but he puts one that was deflected, and it goes right pause. The momentum was definitely with the Dynamo as they were looking for a they were looking for a second goal. We then had some coming together between both of these teams, because, as I said, this is a derby after all. But in the 82nd minute, the Dynamo would make it 2-0 and shut the door on Dallas. As Griffin Dorsey would score from Luisania to make it 2-0 in favor of the Dynamo. And then this is when tempers really start to flare. Who said that the Texas Derby cannot get spicy? I think that was kind of what kind of makes this game worth to watch. Where there were definitely some tempers that was flared. There was multiple confrontation between Dallas and Dynamo player out there. But in the first minute of stoppage time, Acosta would hit it right to Bond before Farrington would put it wide on the pack post in the 5th minute of stoppage time. And in the end, the Dynamo they win 2-0 in this one. I believe they mentioned this is the first win that they had against FC Dallas at Toyota Field or Toyota Park in a very long time. I think since 2011. It's been that long since this team has been able to get a road win. It's been kind of a house of horror for them when they play the Texas Derby on the road, but they get the win here. The shots in this one, 13 shots for the 10 that the Dynamo has, 5 shots on goal for the 3 that Dallas had, 4 shots off target for the 1 that the Dynamo has, 3 shots on blocked for the 6 that Dallas had, and possession-wise, 52% possession compared to 48% possession that Dallas has in this game. And don't look now, but the Houston Dynamo, all of a sudden, they're starting to create a bit of a resurgence. I mean, this team looked like they were dead and very a while ago, but now it seems like Ben Olsen has really rallied his troop to a point where they're starting to get back to playoff contention with them getting a couple wins and getting themselves in a pretty good form in these last 4 or 5 games. But you can't say the same about Dallas. Again, the struggle continues this season at home. They have had a lot of trouble in terms of goal scoring at home. They don't have that kind of problem when they're playing on the road. They do have it at home this season, which is kind of weird to see, but that just kind of sums up Dow's season, where this team is just so unpredictable to see how they play, except for the fact that you know that at home they're not going to score a lot of goals, but on the road, they're probably going to score a bunch of goals or create some chaos. Now, moving on into the next game is Austin and Vancouver. So what's kind of interesting about this one, besides the 0-0 draw, is that Austin was actually the better team in this one. I mean, this was a game where, I think if Austin would actually show some finishing, which is something that they have really struggled, and it's kind of the reason why they're not having a good season so far, they probably would have won this game against the Vancouver Whitecaps. Now, in the first half, the first shot of the game did see Bakari shot pushed away by Takaoka before Heinz Height had a header that was deflected behind for another corner. The first shot for the Whitecaps, see Blackman heads it onto the supporter section before Ocampo would put it wide from long ranges. I thought it was a lively start to this game. Both of these teams was exchanging chances early on. The shots were 3-2 for Austin 15 minutes in. In the 28th minute, Takaoka would deny Bakari on the doorstep of goal. Takaoka, he hasn't been a busy goalkeeper this season because his team seems to dominate all the time, but in this game, he had to make a lot of save to keep the score sheet at 0 in this one. Bakari then missed wide from close to the 35th minute before Vasquez would head it right to Takaoka in the 43rd minute as Austin was pressing to try to get the opening goal. And they finally got it in the 2nd minute of stoppage time when Bakari puts it into the back of net. Problem was, there was an offside on the development play. So, goal did not count. It stays 0-0, and that would be the scoreline heading into the second half. In the second half, Takaoka would deny Savic from long range after just a bad turnover from Vancouver, something you usually do not say a lot about this Whitecaps team. Savic would then put it just wide from long range in the 53rd minute as Austin kind of picked up where they left off in the first half, pressing for the opening goal. Elie would then put one into the supporter section from close. We then go for a period where not much really happened, and it feels like the Whitecaps really ride out that pressure that Austin was putting in, and they started to create some of their chances in the 70th minute as well, as it started off in the 72nd with White heads one right to Stuver before Berhalter hits one right to Stuver in the 75th minute, and up to that point, Stuver was kind of a spectator. He didn't really had a lot to do, which is kind of not what Austin thought that they were expecting. I thought this was a game where Stuver was gonna get tested more, but instead it was Takaoka the one that was tested more in this one. But there was no doubt that Vancouver, for the first time, looked threatening going forward with some sustained pressure. They were looking to try to steal one late in this one. Though in the 83rd minute, Takaoka would deny O'Brien from close range, and yeah, Takaoka and Austin bad finishing is the only reason why this is 0-0 up to this point, and that would also be the scoreline at the full-time whistle. It's another 0-0 draw. Shots in this one, 16 shots for the 5 that Vancouver has, 2 shots on goal for the 5 that Austin has, 6 shots off target for the 2 that Vancouver has, 1 shot off block for the 4 that Austin has, and possession-wise, 53% possession compared to 47% possession that Austin has in this game. And if you're a Los Verdes fan, I mean, if you're an optimist Los Verdes fan, you would say that at least this was a good performance considered after that 5-1 drumming that they took against Vancouver at BC Place. This was not only a much better performance, but they definitely give the supporter shield leader all they can handle in this one. But the pessimistic Los Verdes fans will say that yeah, this is another game we failed to score goals. The finishing has been a huge problem of this team, and if they can't have any sort of finishing ability in this game, they probably would have got a massive 3 points and the 3 points that they desperately needed because they've been on a really bad run of form these last couple of games. But for the Vancouver Whitecaps, I mean, I'm pretty sure deep down Jasper Sorensen would not be happy with this resort. I mean, they got a point out of this game, despite not playing very well. In fact, this might be one of the worst that Vancouver have played, especially with the starters. But that being said, he's not going to be happy in terms of how they perform in this game. They really got outplayed in this one, and probably a little fortunate that they were able to get a point out of this game because of the lack of finishing that Austin has, and Takaoka kind of bailed them out a couple of times in this game. But that being said, I am now going to switch board one last time to look at the last three games to finish up this Mega 11 game review. Look at the Saturday night action of Rivalry Week this week. All right, so now we move on to the Cascadia Derby between the Portland Timbers and the Seattle Sounders. And overall, this was kind of like your typical Cascadia Derby, where yeah, there were definitely some lull moment that happened in this game where there's times where things were a little bit slow. And I will say that this is still considered to be one of the top tier rivalry in MLS, mainly because the history and the heritage of this rivalry is unmatched compared to the other big rivalry that we've seen. But when it comes to entertainment wise, yeah, this rivalry it's kind of not what it used to be. Where it used to actually be a very entertaining rivalry to watch. Though that being said, when you look out of this game, I do think that the Sounders will feel like they should have won this rivalry. I thought they were the better team in this one. They definitely created more of the chances, but unfortunately unable to get the finishing they need to win this rivalry. Now, in the first half, the first shot of the game did see Moswowski whiffs uh, one wide from close before Mascara would puts it wide from long range. Not much chances really created early in this Cascadia Derby, as usual, as the shots were only one apiece, 15 minutes in. Usually in a Cascadia Derby, at least in the last couple of meetings, things tends to be a little bit slow in the beginning. But there was no doubt the Sounders had lots of the possession. The Timbers were looking to sit back and counter because that's kind of the style that they like to do. Rusnak would hit it right to Crepeau in the 22nd minute, but then 9 minutes later, he would be on target as he scored from Muswowski and Rodon to get the first goal of the Cascadia Derby in this one. Muswowski then looked for another, but he was denied by Crepeau. But then just 2 minutes later, that lead that the Sounders had lasted only 3 minutes because Santi Marino would score from DaCosta and Mascara to tie the game up at one apiece. It came off of a lightning counter attack, which is kind of the bread and butter that the Timbers love to do, and really one of the few times where they actually created dangerous chances on the transitional moment. They did create some transitional moment in this one, but they really didn't were able to break down the Sounders team that for the most part really did a good job in terms of shutting down this Timber transitional game. Rodon did look to answer in the first minute of stoppage time, but it was deflected wide, and we do head to halftime with the score tied up at one apiece. In the second half, Mora would head one right to Fry, as I thought there was not much chances to begin the second half either, as neither of these teams was looking really good in the final third. It feels like every time when both of these teams gets in the final third, that's when the ideas start to run out for both of these attack. Rodon would then puts it high in long range before Nuhu puts one into the Timbers Army in the 73rd minute. The referee was then told that he sucked, and they split away. So yeah, the fans were not happy in terms of a call. So you know that the fans are gonna let the referee know about it. Crepeau then denied Manungu from close in the 88th minute. I thought the Sounders were pushing late for the winner. It kind of got to a point where you kind of feel like the Timbers were just playing for a point out of this game, and in the end, they got exactly that. As it ends in a 1-1 draw in this game, the shots in this one, 14 shots compared to just 5 that the Timbers had. Yeah, they weren't really that effective going for on the attack this game. Only one shot on goal compared to 6 that the Sounders had, and yeah, that was kind of affected the fact that the only shot that they got on this game ends up into the back of the net. 2 shots off target free that the Sounders had, 5 shots on block for the 1 that the Timbers had, and possession-wise, 52% possession compared to the 48% possession that the Timbers has in this game. And one thing I also want to know is that these last 3 games that I'll talk about, yeah, when it comes to entertaining factor, these 3 games definitely did not bring it. But nevertheless, in this game, like I said, I feel like the Sounders will feel like they probably should have got more in this game because I thought they were the better team. And for the Timbers, I think the disappointing factor in this game is that they didn't really create too much chances and at times were really kind of up for it. But hey, at least they held the Sounders to a point in this one, and at least that they make sure that even when they're second best, they don't allow their biggest rival to get a win in this Cascadia derby. But that being said, from the Cascadia Derby, now we'll talk about the Rocky Mountain Cup between the Rapids and RSL. And as I mentioned, this was also a game where it was kind of a little bit slow at time as well. But man, do the Colorado Rapids needed this one. I mean, it's been a bad run of form that this Rapids team has gone in the last couple of games, and we'll see whether or not if this Rocky Mountain Cup will propel their season back on track like they did in the first couple of games of the season. But the first shot of the game this happened in the 5th minute as Loras had a shot that was denied by Cabral from close range, and really, besides that attempt, that was really it for the first 15 minutes. Not much really happened. The first shot for RSL did see Ruiz puts it way wide from long range before he hits one right to Hansen, and then Luna would hit it right to Hansen in the 32nd minute. Not quite sure what happened to Zach Steffen in this one. I don't know why he didn't start. Maybe he had some injury that he had to deal with, so he didn't start in this one. But there was no doubt that RSL was creating a couple of pot shot up to this point, but really not much that you can say that really troubled the Rapids backup netminder. I mean, these saves that Hansen have made are kind of save that you expect any goalkeeper would able to make, or at least any competent goalkeeper would make. Hidalgo would then miss wide from long range, but we do head to halftime with the Rapids and RSL tie at 0-0. Almost at the Rapids were leading 1-0. Kind of gone a little too ahead of myself in terms of this game. But in the second half, Atencio would puts it high from long range, and really just like the first half, not much really happened in the beginning of part of the second half as well. But one thing that did happen is a goal that was being scored because in the 70th minute, when things are not going well for the Rapids and they need someone to step up to break the ice, why not call on your number 10, Georgi Mihailovic? He scored here from Bassett to make it 1-0 in favor of the Rapids, but that was not great defending from an RSL perspective. There was a lot of ball watching, a lot of standing around. They're not able to get that one way of their own box, and they were punished for that as the Rapids have a 1-0 lead. Kudibietro did look for another, but he hits the post off of a lightning transition for the Rapids, and then Cabral would deny Bassett from close as Colorado was looking to put this Rocky Mountain Cup to bed with a second goal. Glad would then puts it over from the volley before Junka would hits it right to Hansen. But that was pretty much it for this game as RSL really didn't create too many chances after that. And in the end, the Rapids, they needed this one. They get a 1-0 win against RSL in this one. The shots in this one, 6 shots with 11 that RSL had, 4 shots on goal for the 3 that the Rapids had, 1 shots off target for the 4 that RSL had, 3 shots that was blocked for the none that the Rapids had, and possession-wise, 56% possession compared to 44% possession the Colorado Rapids has in this game. And for RSL, yeah, even though they outshot the Rapids in this one and pretty much outshot them in terms of the stats, I didn't think that they play anywhere close to look like they were the better team in this game. And this is kind of another type of game where the stats can be a little bit deceiving in terms of the resort itself. I think overall it was kind of an even game where both of these teams has had some moments. I think maybe if I had to say who was the better team, I actually will give it to the Rapids because I think they created much more of the dangerous chance with the limited chances compared to RSL. But yeah, for RSL, this is definitely not a great resort for them. The struggle continue for Pablo Mastroeni's side. They've been a very mediocre team this season at best this year. Now, finally, moving on into the last game on this board, and the last game of this mega review. And unfortunately, I kind of had to end by talking about the last game in the review in a pretty boring game. So I talk about DC and Nashville kind of being a boring game. This was kind of right up there in terms of up for some of the most boring game we have seen this season, and this is kind of surprising because I did not expect San Diego and Sporting KC to be a relatively boring game with the way that both of these teams has done so well on the attack. You have never guessed it that this game would end 0-0 and there would only be 12 shots in the entire game. Now, in the first half, not much really happened early in this one. Lozano did hit one right to Polshkam before Dreyer missed wide on the back post. San Diego definitely woke up after a slow start. They were pressing to try to get the opener. Though, as I said, that Sulemana would hit it right to Dos Santos, as that was Sporting KC first shot. Lulu, we know that would only be one of 2 shots they would get in the entire game because we then go for a long period where not much really happened. Lozano would put one into the stands because it feels like Cookie Lozano is a little bit snake bitten right now when it comes to goal scoring. Verskov would then head it right to Polskam in the third minute of stoppage time, but we do head to halftime with the fourth scoreless between both of these teams. In the second half, just like the first half, not much really happened early on in this second half as well. McVeigh would then puts it wide from long range before the post would deny Sulemana from the curler. So basically, Sulemana was the offense for Sporting KC in this one. He basically had the only two shot for Sporting KC, which I mean it was just one that kind of game for Sporting KC, not getting anything going on the attack, and unfortunately, unlike just a couple of weeks ago where nobody actually registered a shot, they couldn't rely on an own goal this time to get them a win in this one. But in the 67th minute, Polskam would deny Dreyer, but it falls right to De La Torre, who his second effort was blocked away. I gotta say, John Polskam, he has definitely played much better in these last couple of games and definitely earning his keep. There was definitely a lot of criticism I would say he received in the beginning because of how things have gone, but he's definitely played much better. I don't think it's near anywhere level of what they were hoping for a Tim Melia replacement, but still, I feel like he is definitely become more confident and not to mention putting some clean sheet as well in these last couple of games. But there was no doubt the chances were starting to come for both of these teams. But the question is, who can get the opener? Well, Dreyer tried to do so, but he hits that one over from close range, and that was pretty much it in this game. In a game where I did not think that this game was going to end scoreless because of how high power this attack for both teams would be. It ends in a scoreless draw, and the shots in this one, 10 shots compared to just 2 that Sporting KC had. 1 shots on goal compared to 4 that San Diego has. 4 shots off target compared to none that Sporting KC had. No shots off or no shots that was blocked for the 3 that San Diego has, and possession-wise, unsurprisingly, San Diego has most of the possession. They pretty much have most of the possession almost every single game. 61% possession compared to 39% possession that Sporting KC has in this game. And it's also worth to note that before this game, it did rain in San Diego. I know it's kind of weird to say that it rains in San Diego because you usually never see San Diego get some rain, but it did a little bit, so maybe that kind of played to a part of it where the turf at Snapdragon Stadium is not used to handling water. I mean, I still remember was in a couple of years when there was like a women's Gold Cup game where they basically play on a pitch that was completely waterlogged and so forth. Yeah, that pitch was not designed to handle a lot of water, let alone a rainstorm. So maybe that kind of played a part to the game. I mean, it wasn't really raining throughout the game as well, but overall, it's one of those games where MLS is kind of a unique league where just as you predicted that this certain thing can happen and that maybe there's a high scoring game and it turns out to be a slog fest like what we saw in this game between San Diego and Sporting KC, and that kind of is the case for most of these games this week in rivalry week. Which I also wonder whether or not if the low scoring that we've seen, and especially the amount of nil-nil draw that we got, which is probably the highest we have ever had this season. I mean, we had 4 nil-nil draws this week. I wonder is that a lot to do with the fact that this is the first time where every single team, or at least most team, have to play 3 games in 7 days, and fatigue could be a factor. Uh, at least doing this week. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and I believe we actually did this video under an hour if I'm not mistaken. I mean, if I look at the timesheet right now, if I do the math, yeah, I think we might have actually able to get this one done in under an hour, which is so that's definitely unexpected when I do an 11 game review. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.